Assalamualaikum and hi. Have a good day, I beg to our respected lecturer Dr. Nur Marini Abdullah. This video is about case study presentation. Our group has chose case number 5, Taj Mahal Investment as our case study. So please bear with us throughout the presentation. This group consists of 3 members, which is Ain Alhani, Nur Shakira and I, Nurul Aida Natasha.
Assalamualaikum, I am Ain Azhani. Today I'm going to present on the background of Taj Mahal Investment Company. Taj Mahal Investment Company is an Indian-owned business based in the United States. It is a family business inherited by the sons of Mr. Prabhas, a very well-known textile businessman in Mumbai. However, due to the critical analysis of the present textile scenario, the oldest son, Mr. Rajesh, changed the business into investment basis and he decided to invest in many sectors of business as long as he could maintain its fortune. The problem started to arise when he entrusted his cousin, Mr. Pravit, to be the fund manager and to manage all the investment. He also gave him a complete authority to invest the money and to maintain bookkeeping without any supervision or approval from other parties. Mr. Pravit is the youngest son in the family and he lives a lavish lifestyle. A year later, after accepting a job overseas, he resigned and left a $2 million trading loss on the books. The internal auditor were asked to review the account when the investment operation has closed and the statutory tax return had to be filed. However, the report revealed that many large value trades were completed on the same day almost at the same time, which resulting in losses to the company. Following that, it was also discovered that the loss-yielding trades were executed by a different broker, which made no sense. The fund manager also has deleted all the relevant trade folders. The trades were made in order to cause losses to the company.
Hi, I am Aida Natasha and I will discuss on the issues and solutions that we have discussed regarding the case. The issue is the auditor has discovered the fraud done was engineered through cross-deal method. The auditor examined the audit report and found that the loss-yielding trades were complete by different brokers, where the fund manager bought and sold loss-yielding trades simultaneously through 2 brokers. The auditor reviewed this business practice with other derivatives traders and colleagues who agreed that using several brokers at the same time in such loss-yielding contract was illogical. The trade was set up to generate losses for the company while secretly profiting a third broker recruited by the fund manager. Therefore, the solutions that we can recommend to the company for this issue is to maintain the integrity of asset and ensure management efficiency, where the company should upgrade its internal control system. The system helps manager maintain a high level of performance by preventing loss. The management can control activities where the management can review the transaction, operation and summary report to help to monitor the performance. For example, monthly review of budget statement to actual expenses. This can help the management to take appropriate action if there are any irregularities. Furthermore, with a competent internal control system in place, the company may avoid or reduce the likelihood of problem occurring.
The second issue is when there is no supervision upon the funds manager. Mr. Pravit, who is the funds manager, had complete authority to invest the money and to maintain the record keeping. The company suffered $2.0 million trading loss on the books left by the funds manager. The auditor found out that all the relevant trade folders in the computers were erased by the funds manager before leaving. This fraud happens due to no supervision, as no one can check or supervise the funds manager. Next, for the solution, in order to minimize the fraudulent activities in the company, the director of the company should appoint someone who is qualified to supervise the funds manager. Besides, the segregation of duties should be implemented. By doing this, it can minimize the possibility of the fraud to occur.
Next, I will continue with the first question, which is the red flag. Red flags are only warning that indicate the higher fraud risk. However, they are not the evidence of fraud. There are a few red flags that can be identified in the case of Taj Mahal Investment Company, which are the common personality traits of fraudster, includes living beyond their means, and the common sources of pressure that requires Mr. Pravit to maintain his lavish lifestyle. Mr. Rajesh has appointed his cousin, Mr. Pravit, to manage all the investment, and he is also given a complete authority to invest the money and to maintain record keeping. It is also said that Mr. Pravit is the youngest son in the family, and he lives a lavish lifestyle in a luxury apartment and drives Porsche. As can be seen, the need to maintain a lavish lifestyle, such as have or wear luxury thing or feel pressure to keep up material possession, has influenced Mr. Pravit to commit fraud. The next element is close family relationship between Mr. Rajesh and Mr. Pravit. The management personnel are formed by family members, which may create familiarity threat within the company. Mr. Pravit may believe that he may do anything that he wants because his cousin has given him the full responsibility to manage the fund, and it also opened up the opportunities for him as a fund manager to commit fraud. Now I will move on to the factors that could influence the employee's fraud. The factors that could influence employees' fraud can be described based on the fraud triangle. The fraud triangle consists of the element of pressure, opportunity, and rationalization. In order for fraud to occur, all the elements have to be presented. The first element is pressure. It is what causes a person to commit fraud. Most of the time, the pressure comes from a significant financial problems, or it is simply out of greed alone. Based on the case, Mr. Pravit commits the fraud because he is under pressure to keep up with his lavish lifestyle, which is living in a luxury apartment and driving Porsche. Due to the pressure, he is willing to abuse his cousin's trust for his personal gain. The next element is opportunity, which is the ability to commit fraud. It is the leg that the organization have most control over. In this case, Mr. Pravit has the ability to commit fraud by using his position as the fund manager. The internal auditor reveals that Mr. Pravit has made a large value trades on the same day, almost at the same time, which causes loss to the company, and he also erased all the relevant trade folders, which then retrieved by the auditors. It was also discovered that the fraud is engineered by a cross-deal method. Mr. Pravit has the opportunity to commit the fraud because he has been given a complete authority to invest all the money and to maintain the record keeping without any supervision or authorization from someone else. The last element is rationalization. It is a crucial component in most fraud. Rationalization involves a person reconciling his or her behavior of stealing or committing fraud with commonly accepted notion of decency and trust. Based on the case, we can say that Mr. Pravit believes that in order to maintain his lavish lifestyle, he has to commit fraud to obtain a large sum of money because he does not have any access to outside assistance. He may also believe that it is a rational and a reasonable course of action as the company is his own family company. In conclusion, Mr. Pravit satisfies all the three elements which led him to commit fraud.
These are two examples of common fraud types. The first one is asset misappropriation and the next one is corruption. Asset misappropriation may involve stealing of cash or asset, such as supplies, inventories, or information. It usually involves the third parties or employees in an organization who abuse their position through fraudulent activity. The next one is corruption. Corruption is the misuse of entrust power for private gain. This includes bribery or other improper uses of power. In most cases, corruption is uncovered through tips or complaints from the third parties. Next, I will proceed with how internal auditors' IT knowledge can solve the company's problem. Based on the case study, there is fraudulent activity that has happened in the company where the funds manager has done fraud through cross-deal method. By using internal auditors' IT knowledge, computer-assisted audit techniques can be used as an approach to audit using computers. These are some functions of computer-assisted audit techniques. The first one is information retrieval and analysis to assess data and records and to evaluate and analyze them based on the criteria or parameters set by them. Next is fraud detection tool, where the auditors can use advanced software to identify unexpected or unexplained patterns in data that may indicate a possible fraud case. The last one is audit reporting function, where computer-assisted audit techniques enable automated linking between work performed, information gathered, auditor assessment, and information used in supporting audit report writing functions. It also minimizes the duplication in writing or translating of information. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Then we move to the advantages and disadvantages of using computer-assisted audit techniques in internal audit work. The advantages of CAAT are it allows auditor to test a large volume of data or the operation of a system to control precisely and quickly, making them cost-effective when used correctly. CAAT also reduces human error in testing and allows for the extraction of a high level of audit evidence. The use of CAAT frees up expensive human capital that would otherwise can be used in crucial areas to focus on judgmental tasks, and CAAT also provides the auditors with a consistent standard of practice and a user-friendly interface. For the disadvantages of using CAAT is too expensive to set up and may require client cooperation. Some of costs involved in running this software, such as cost of purchasing and installing the software, cost of training the staff, and cost of maintaining the software. Second, major changes in client system frequently need major modification, which is time-consuming and expensive. The client also may have unrealistic expectations about the service. Then, CAAT, which is used to extract business data, has a number of security flaws. If not handled appropriately, sensitive business data could be compromised by irresponsible individuals. Besides, CAAT also requires data in a specific format in which the client may not be capable of providing. The group of internal auditors that review the company account did use an audit software tool to analyze the data of the company. The audit software tool may help to ease the audit work, but they must always be skeptical of the audit result, as there are disadvantages that might affect the audit opinion. Next, we move to the investigation technique that could be applied by internal auditors to help Mr. Rajesh. The first technique is gathering evidence from surveillance, interview, or written statements. It is significant to use against the perpetrators. The internal auditors can help Mr. Rajesh to determine the fraud by doing these techniques. The second technique is documenting and preserving the evidence. The internal auditors should document and preserve the evidence regarding the case for the future purposes. Next, based on the evidence gathered, the internal auditors may determine the extent of the fraud done, whether it is material or immaterial to the company. After that, the internal auditors must also determine the method used by the perpetrator in order to commit fraud. They can assume the fraud happens to the company because the perpetrator has the ability to commit the fraud. Then, the reasons for the fraud happens also must be evaluated by the internal auditors. For this case, they can assume that the perpetrator commit fraud because of his desire regarding his lavish lifestyle. And the last technique is identifying the perpetrator. After all the technique before, the internal auditors can identify the perpetrators based on the evidence gathered and the evaluation done. Mr. Rajesh can decide to take legal action toward the perpetrator with the evidence gathered. So, I think that's all from us. Thank you.